Howdy, it's Kevin with Gonro Games / Rogue Deckbuilder. So, my pre-release video did very well for a dead channel, so I thought I'd just do an update video on how the pre-release went. And then we'll be playing another one here, so I just opened up another pre-release pack. And give my overall thoughts on Spider-Man. So, yeah, this channel, I haven't been keeping up with it, so I was really shocked that it got as many views as it actually did get for the pre-release. So if you are new to this channel, welcome. I do more content over at my Gonro Games channel. That's kind of the active channel right now. So a little bit of history. This channel on Rogue Deckbuilder was basically about doing this stuff. So back in the day, I used to brew a lot of Magic the Gathering, do a lot of top 10 videos. I used to work for a couple of different sites like Cool Stuff and create video content for them. And then it's just as things progressed, I started getting more into actually running a store. So we have a store here in Richfield, Utah, little small town, and we hold events here. And so I still do play Magic the Gathering for all of you that are old timers. I still do enjoy it, and mainly I play mostly just the pre-releases and limited when I can, and standard I dabble in every now and again. So definitely not like the glory years of the Rogue Deckbuilder, but it is still fun. And I was pretty much against Universes Beyond, and I think Spider-Man has actually converted me, which is funny because I have no I could care less about Marvel or Spider-Man. In fact, I kind of don't like comic books personally. And I was a huge Final Fantasy fan growing up. So you think I'd like the Final Fantasy? I hated it. I did not like Final Fantasy. I thought that the cards were kind of underwhelming as far as inspiration is concerned. Of course, had problem cards in the set. And so when Spider-Man came out, I'm like, okay, there's going to be another balmy, wonky format. And, you know, with cards that have been pushed into standard now, and that were definitely not designed for standard, like Vivi, like I'm trying to think of the other one that reanimates enchantments from your graveyard. Like those things just seem too like powerful for what they do, and too like non-interactive for what they do, and just begging to be broken. So Spider-Man came out, and there definitely is some cards that I think we'll see playing standard. I don't think it's a garbage set. There's a lot of people that do think it's a garbage set. I actually love it. I love the mechanics in the set. I think they knocked out of the park with like the web slinging for Selesnya. And then we have the mayhem, the villains, the spiders. I think all of those, like you have tribal in this format, plus you do have a lot of synergies that then overlap with other colors. And I just had a phenomenal time. The pre-release of the decks that I played against were very engaging and fun, back and forth. And I like formats where you do feel like you can outplay your opponent. So this is definitely one of them. The board states can get a little bit clogged, but they added a lot of like mana dumps in the set, which I showed in my last video. And I'm just absolutely in love with the set. And again, this is coming from a place where I could care less about Spider-Man. So it's not like some sort of nostalgia factor. And again, I used to be kind of a Magic purist. I wanted Magic to kind of stay its own identity and brand. But I mean, it's water in the bridge now. I mean, that ship has sailed a long time ago. I think they ruined the IP clear back in the Justice League, if people remember that. I think the storyline has been terrible. The kind of community engagement has been terrible. They're going to release an MMO, they're going to release an RPG, they're going to release all this stuff, and then they go back on it. They change characters every 5 seconds. They do hat sets where it's like, okay, we're going to put a cowboy hat on this guy and somehow make this person's personality change. I mean, it's just so convoluted that I think Magic as an IP itself has been pretty garbage for a long time. So actually, Universes Beyond, I think, is now a welcome change. So I've been completely converted because at least they do have source material that they can't screw up. So as much as I'm not like a comic book fan or a Marvel fan, I think this did very well in a thematic sense, as well as it pushes what I've stated in some other videos, that Universes Beyond like forces the designers to think outside the box. As I stated in my last video, I think Dragon's Dark here was one of the most uninspired sets as far as just word salading is what I like to call it. Just throwing mechanics, and then they get really pigeonholed into the different 3-color mechanics or 2-color mechanics in that set. And again, it just felt like that everything was a questing beast, like a word salad card that was just like, let's throw Death Touch, let's throw Vigilance, let's throw this on here. And it just became like, yeah, where you have a lot of these best in slot type things. So Spider-Man does not feel that bad of that set. There's a lot of awesome, like I said, tribal synergies. And again, the pre-release was night and day from Dragons of Tarkir and Final Fantasy, which I think that limited formats have been doing pretty well for a long time with Wizards of the Coast design. So kudos to, like, I want to give shout outs. I don't always be negative on this channel, and show shout outs where it deserves. I think this is one of the best pre-releases I've had in a long time. I'm looking forward to drafting tomorrow and then playing League too. So what we do with our store, and you should encourage your store to do this too, is after your pre-release, you can keep your pre-release intact and then use it for League. So we play from set to set. So we'll be playing Spider-Man all the way till Avatar, and then your deck just gets better and better because each week you can add a pack to your pool, and every time you lose 3, you can also add a pack to your pool. So things keeps things on like an even keel playing field between people that have better skill, people are winning more, have less cards in their pool, and I just love League. So anyway, I'll give my entire thoughts of how it actually impacts Standard. Be looking forward for like a top 10 list of cards that I want to brew with, because I think this is the set that has really inspired me to like create content again. All right, with that out of the way, let's just go over my pre-release and show you the one I've just opened here. We'll be playing here in like a half an hour, so I need to get this deck build as well. So this is the pre-release that I showed yesterday, and ended up going Grixis, sort of Grixis. So the cards that I wanted, I felt like I probably shouldn't have played this combo here. So this is the Cosmic Spider-Man. I probably should have some other way to reanimate it, but I had so many ways to discard it and go through my deck. But it only happened one time. I actually only saw this card one time. It just was in the middle or bottom of my deck the entire. But game 1 against my poor opponent, I did get out the Wombo combo with Superior Spider-Man and Cosmic Spider-Man. So basically threw this in the graveyard and then made it a copy with the Superior Spider-Man and swung it for lethal. So that was kind of cool. There's are these little innovative things you can do in the format, and this guy can also be reanimated. There's a couple of reanimation spells in the format that can get it back. In fact, there's one that gets back like 3 creatures, which is super strong with this particular card. So hoping to draft that sometime in like a draft deck and make this combo work out. So as far as League is concerned, this will be a fun little League to add on to, and hopefully I can find some more pieces for this combo. So that was kind of not the craziest aspect of this deck. This deck ended up just being a nice little tempo shell that utilized the Mayhem mechanic, and just a lot of cards that just gained a lot of value. So we had things like Superior Foes of Spider-Man, that this card absolutely was a bomb in this format, because every time you cast something converted mana cost 4 or greater, it basically was a draw card type effect. It did a lot of work. A 3/3 trample was nothing to scoff at. These Spider-Man infestations were so good. They gave ramp to red, which is crazy, and then untapping it with 4 also allowed you to cast your 4 on time and also swing in or keep up with blocker. This card was insane. The other cards that I kind of want to, like the Mayhem mechanic was absolutely like better than Madness because of the timing. I mean, you can't on your opponent's turn. I mean, Madness is a little bit better by cheating things in like instant speed. But the Mayhem mechanic was very, very relevant as be able to discard cards. There was a couple cards that like had discard as like this Scarlet Spider with the Mayhem, and be able to use it. This was a very clutch card. So basically in Magic Rendezvous, this card is actually, I read your comments too, and I do love how this worked because it actually came into effect many times throughout the night with being able to discard a card then draw 2 cards. So basically you don't have to do that as additional cost to cast it. You can actually play it for 2 and then just discard or draw 2 cards if you're out of cards. That happened a lot throughout the night, where the Romantic Rendezvous just ended up being like a cheap divination for that effect. And it really enabled the Mayhem, and there were a lot of other interactions with it. Same thing with the Shriek Troublemaker. It was just like a Mayhem enabler, and then not being able to block was super relevant. So I ended up going 3-1 with this deck. I did lose to a deck that actually had the Villain strategy, which I actually opened, yeah, lost 1 game to this, just a late game board state. Lost to the Devour Spiders that just lethaled. And then the 6-drop that just gives all of your, so I lost to this combo here, the Mysteria Master Illusion that added a ton of 3/3s, and then the Vulture and Scheming Scavenger that gave them all flying and attack. So we kind of had like a board state that was not going anywhere. Like I had some big creatures out that were slowly pumping up, and my opponent had the Vulture, Scheming Scavenger, and then did find the Mysterio, and then was able, I didn't have removal for the Mysterio, and then was able to just swing in 1 turn for lethal. So anyway, this is like a sneak peek of my deck. We'll get to in a second. But other things too, this was an insane card with the Black Cat Cunning Thief. Unfortunately, I did not get the other little combo off with the 4 mana artifact that allows you to cast, add mana towards cards that are exiled. I don't know what happened to this. Maybe we sold it to someone that wanted it from... yeah, it's not my deck anymore, so I'll have to find it. But yeah, all in all, this was just like a pretty simple deck that ended up working out really well. The Electro Assaulting Battery is just, this card I definitely think is standard playable, and I'm excited to brew around it. And I think that unlike Final Fantasy, it was really hard for me to like pick 10 cards that I wanted to brew around. We never even did get around to doing most of those. Kind of got obsessed with Kona. in the format. And there's actually a lot of cards that I think will work in Kona. And what I'm also really, really looking forward to is this Mayhem effect with Monument decks. I think that it's a perfect mechanic for the Monument, especially the timing of Monument. Being able to then discard a card and put it in your graveyard, and you don't have to cast like Madness right at the moment. Like you can have the end of turn with Mayhem, and the ability to like generate a treasure too to help you cast other stuff I think is pretty relevant. So I do want to go like a mono red Monument deck with the like the 1-cost red Mayhem cards or 2-cost red Mayhem cards, I think are actually pretty clutch in that deck. So this Black-Eyed Cunning Thief was really, really strong. I think that's like, maybe I would still say that, I know this is just like they're trying to give an up to Gonti, but unfortunately not giving this thing Death Touch I think was actually weird, because a 5-mana card that just has a 2/3 body is quite underwhelming. But the X-Line top 9 and playing 9 cards is clutch, but I mean, it definitely was like, I wish they would have given this guy like something like, even like a 1/4 would have been more relevant, just something like the body, or like a 1/5 or something where it could block or do something. But if a 2/3 on turn number 5, when they've scaled so many cards, this day and age is basically like, this ends up just ignoring the creature part. Yeah, you can use it as like a chump blocker or like a flicker type thing or a reanimation spell, but unfortunately just, yeah, that body was so underwhelming. I know, like, God, they should make this card even better than what it is, even though it's a bomb. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. For at least standard, I don't know if like Grixis or Dimir or like even Golgari are going to want it in the future. I'm thinking like Black-White Flicker might want it though, with the Black-Eyed Cunning Thief as a way to grind out games. So yeah, anyway. So yeah, pretty, again, straightforward deck. Only lost the one matchup, but there's the interdimensional Web Watch. Wish it would have allowed you to use the mana to activate abilities too. That would have been pretty cool. Anyway, wrong set too though. This would have really worked with Warp, with Intermittent Web Watch. So little food for thought if people want to try to build around a Warp type deck. All right, so let's get to the one that I just opened here, and it's pretty much established. This is crazy not going red. I'm just going to show you the red, and I'm going to give you my thoughts of why I'm not going red. So first of all, we have a Shock, which of course is very relevant. We have another Superior Spider-Man. I already talked about how amazing this card is. Unfortunately, that's the problem with red. Like, I had this really low to the ground curve. There was nothing that was actually that. We had the Dinosaur Man, and that's it. That is the one card in the deck that would actually trigger, or at least out of red, for this Superior Foe Spider-Man. So it's kind of a weird card. I mean, a 3/3 for 3 trample is exactly what you want to be doing in red anyway. But this Jonah Jameson, this card's insane actually. So it suspects a creature when it comes into play, it can hit itself. And whenever creature you control with menace attacks, create a treasure token. So it actually gives a creature, it doesn't say opponent, so it's your own creatures you can give suspect to, and then they get menace, and then you're drawing a lot, or you're creating a lot of treasure tokens, which it says whenever creature you control with menace attacks, create a treasure token. So it's not once per turn thing, so you can play like a 1-drop menace card, and like, I think this is, again, another card that does seem standard playable. I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch with a 2/2 body, but it does, I think, have some potential for sure. And we got an Electro Assaulting Battery. This card's insane with, like, if you have a lot of spells to cast. Unfortunately, we did not with this one, just one Romantic Rendezvous in this one. The ability when it dies to deal X damage to players is super relevant. We had a couple hasters. Haste, 1/1 sacrifice this creature, draw cards. This is like a reprint of the Insolent Neonate from a few sets back, well, a long time ago now at this point. And this, again, this is another card that does seem kind of cool in the Monument-based decks. I'm not sure if that's where you want to be in those, but it is a 1/1 relevant card with a body. I'll definitely be trying that out in like a Monument build. The Spinner and Spiraling too, it was kind of cool too, because we had this like 1/2 drop with the Spinner and Spiraling where it could get bigger and bigger and bigger. This card's also pretty cool if you go into black, that can then have a few cards that can put counters on it. And then it gets its power up higher. There's like the one that gives menace, +1/+1. There's the card that gives a creature connive every turn. There's a card if a creature died. You know, you can give something. So there's ways to pump these up. Yeah, we had a lot of spiders that actually did work with it. Like, again, we have the 1/2 punch with spiders that worked really well. We have some aggressive with Angry Rabble. And, you know, I definitely could go this shell, another 3-drop spider that works. and a lot of other cards that do synergize and work quite well with this red aggro. However, I opened my first few packs. I wish I would have done a live opening of this too, because I'm like, oh, I'm going red. There's no way I'm not. I think I had a triple rare pack with red, but then we get this monstrosity here. We get this villain shell that's absolutely nuts. So this Morland Devourer of the Spiders is just insane with a board state. So you just have, even if you cast it for 3, it does 3 damage. You gain 3 life, and then ends up being a 5. Yeah, it's huge. It scales perfectly. It's like no matter what, it's scaling and giving that initial life link as you put more mana into it. Like even for 3 mana, it's a 3/2, does a damage, you gain a life immediately. This card's great. It probably will see some standard play to shore up some of the aggros. We do not have, I'll go to the control here in a second because the control is a little bit weird. These Venom Unleashed, they are villains, but in this deck, they're mainly just going to get milled and then used. There's another card that does work really well with that spider. So I'm actually move over into this other room because it's starting to get busy in the other room and it's getting kind of noisy. So bear with me as I move over and we will get to the rest of this deck. Sorry, I'm not going to edit this video, so you guys have to, I guess you guys get to see my messy store here. All right, maybe it's a little quieter back here. Possibly not. All right, yeah, we got a pre-release that is, so I got to hurry this video up. We got a pre-release that is going to be starting here very shortly. Okay, so where were we with those Venoms were, again, if we have to cast them for 5, unfortunately our curve is pretty bad with this deck. So we have the Venom Unleashed that if we have to cast them, we have to cast them. And mainly they're just going to be like flex. They're going to be in the graveyard if we need to actually put counters on stuff, which is kind of relevant. If not, they are what they are. But we have like this really good low to the ground villain choke up the board strategy. With the Merciless Enforcer, sure, 2/1 lifelink, it's going to shore up any sort of aggro matchup. Same thing with the Mob Lookouts. They're going to be 1/4s, probably 1/4s. They do have the discard. That's a way to get the Venoms in the graveyard. So the Mob Lookouts are absolutely amazing in this list. With the Kanai being very relevant, we have Mysterio's Phantasm too. This card is just clogging up the board. There is a synergy again with the Venom Eve Unleashed. So turn 2 and then turn 3 you have a 3/5 Flying Vigilance, which I think is very good. So again, well, no, because you have to mill a card later on. But I mean, so it'll get later. So you have to attack first and then. Yeah, at least for a blocker, you have a 3/5. We have the Swarm Being of Bees. So again, this works really well with like the Mob Lookout with the Mayhem type effect. If you cast this on turn number 3, hopefully you can have like Mayhem to work. We have the Spider Bite Web Warden, which is just a mana war. So it's just a really, clutch card. This is actually kind of relevant too. It enters or returns up to 1 target non-land permanent to owner's hand. So black is like the black-blue Dimir bounce. I think this card actually is pretty decent in here because the ability to actually do it to your opponent. So for standard, I think this is actually a pretty clutch card. All right, so this Ultimate Green Goblin is actually really, really cool. This is another one that I want to try out in like a Monument deck because it is the beginning of your upkeep, you discard a card and trade a treasure token. So in more of a control shell with Monument, you are incredibly mana greedy and be able to have a discard outlet that creates a treasure token, I don't think is too terrible. But the Mayhem also on this with a 5/4, I think is actually quite relevant. I don't know if this is going to be something that'll be standard playable. The 3-drop slot is very, very clogged in like Monument decks already. But a 5/4 for 3 mana, it's relevant with Mayhem. So I think it's actually, worthy of a discussion. But this deck, I think, is, again, it's a 5/4. We have things that want to be discarded, like the Venoms. We have other Mayhem things we can get some value out of it. Another Inner Demon Gangster, which does have the discard effect and +1/+1 your own menace. Again, this is just something that's kind of a fillers type slot. It's a villain though, and you'll see why villains matter here. Because Mysterio, Master of Illusion, this card is just going to probably win a lot of games here with our 2/3 punch with villains. You cast it on turn 4. It creates a 3/3 for each non-token villain control, so counts itself and everything else. So on turn, when you cast this card, hopefully it's going to put 3/3 out. You'll have a board state that's massive, and you can start, applying some pressure. There's some ways to actually, like late game, if your guys are dead, you can then Spider Bite it back. We have the Chameleon Master of Disguise who can copy something. So it does change the name, I believe. So it gets around Legendary. I believe so. Yeah. So it's another way to copy it. Pretty cool. We have the Beetle Legacy Criminal. This is something that's great too. From exiling from your graveyard, put a +1 counter on a creature. It gains flying. So again, that's what I really like with that. Like blue-red +1/+1 counters on that 1-drop spider. Anyway, really, really clutch. But then we get into like the real reason why we are running the villain type strategy, because we do have good old Dr. Octopus. So Dr. Octopus is going to, we're going to clock the board, hopefully get to 7 mana. And other villains get +2/+2, and then this guy's gets to drop. So again, this is going to win some board states for sure. The body's kind of weird with it, but everything in our deck is a villain. So there's a couple spiders, but yeah. And then we are going to have the 2 Vulture Scheming Scavengers. This just wins board, clock board states. When it attacks other villains, you're rolling flying, you're swinging for lethal. Unfortunately, though, like the one problem we're having with this particular deck is the removal is quite light. We only have the Pumping and Bombardment, the Scorpion Sting, and a Whoosh. So we're not going to be able to take care of any bombs in this deck. So that's my one hole that is, and typically if you are like a strategy like this, you want to be incredibly aggressive, and we're not. So our whole goal is to hopefully stall the board as much as possible, get a bomb out, and kind of out-bomb our opponents. We'd have a Prison Break that can get our 7-drop, so if we mill it or we discard it, or a Prison Break to get it back, the Mayhem's kind of cool. This card's actually, I really like it. I am going to be running Scarlet Spider Cane, even though I can't hard cast it, because I think there's plenty of discard outlets and mill outlets in this just to utilize the Mayhem. And Spider Noir is still another card which I think is fine. We have ways to kind of surveil and whatnot. So I'm not sure if the Alien Symbiosis quite made the cut. I don't think so. It was my 24th card, but this is another enabler for like the Mayhem, which I think is super relevant. And like in this deck too, even if you threw this on like a 1/4 Conniver and then make it a 2, so it'd be a 2/6 with Menace. It's not terrible. You put on your Vigilance guy too, your flyer, like the 1/3 becomes what, a 2/4 flyer every. It's a great little tempo card. I'm not sure again. This card might have made the cut or not. A couple other cards that didn't make the cut. We probably will play Spider-Man No More. I can't remember if this one made the cut either. We'll have to get our. This one is interesting because we do have the 1 reanimation spell. Unfortunately, if we had like a superior Spider-Man, I would have played like Mr. Negative, even though I can't even hard cast it. I didn't really have a lot of ways to splash for white in this one. We have a couple ways of creating treasure tokens, but all in all, it's like this would be very, very tough to actually hard cast. And a 5/5 Vigilance Lifelink, possibly drawing cards exchanging life is kind of awkward for a 7-drop. I just don't think it's where we want to be. So yeah, all in all, that's what we end up being. We had some other cool things like Robotics Mastery. We had with Great Power, but we didn't have like the things that tutored them up. And that was kind of, where we're at with this pool. So it's very, very clutch. I think that you can't go wrong with a pool like this. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with it. It's definitely in the color combinations that I like playing in Limited, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing what other people actually come to the table with in this sealed event. So again, this has been a really, really fun sealed event. Like by far better than Edge of Eternities. I feel like Edge of Eternities, like you play 20 relevant cards, maybe 19 relevant cards in your deck, and then you just get stuck playing a bunch of trash. Like that's kind of felt like sealed was weird with Edge of Eternities. It felt like you had incomplete decks. This one, you definitely feel like you have complete decks and even have the option to okay, this, am I going to play this Spider-Man No More? This is just like a hard removal spell that works, which we probably end up doing, or do I want to be more aggressive with the Alien Symbiosis? Because we already stated we have that kind of the 2-card punch. Even putting on that lifelinker seems pretty relevant. And yeah, so there's lots and lots of ways. I think that you have typically some flex spots to get your 20 through 24th or 20 to the 23rd card in this format, which I really, really like. I think that really defines a format based upon playing a lot of filler, which I felt like you did with Edge of Eternities. And again, Final Fantasy just seems super bomby and like super bomby with particular combination. I was not a fan of Final Fantasy Sealed. I felt like it was just bomb galore that took over the games. It was very hard to really find decks or cards that paired together. And I might be wrong with it. I haven't played a lot of Final Fantasy. And then same thing, Dragon's Dark here was fine. It just felt super uninspired in my opinion. So I love this format so far. Again, I'm pretty sure when we get to my top 10 list of cards I want to brew with, I could find 30 cards that are fun from this set. And again, this is coming, last time I'm going to state this is coming from a person that was very apprehensive towards Universes Beyond. I was a Magic purist. I grew up playing Magic. I liked the world of Magic the Gathering. But in all honesty, as I've kind of reflected back, I mean, we've kind of been Universes Beyond since day one of Magic the Gathering with the Dark and Arabian Nights being more like historical or cultural thematic kind of universes beyond, whereas this is now just bringing other universes with. And I think that's kind of the cool thing with Magic the Gathering, is they've realized they have like the most flavorful mechanical sound game, and they can just be kind of like Weiss Schwarz or some of these other ones that instead of just going all the anime things, they can just go all the cool IPs that, you know, we all grew up as kids. At least I did. When I was bored in church, stuck in church, I would like, oh, I wonder, I remember I liked Remedy Feast was my favorite author, and I created like all sorts of Magic cards for all of Remedy Feast's characters, from like Magician, Magician Apprentice, Betrayal at Krondor, that whole genre, and started doing that with other things too. Remember, even like I go back and find some old notebooks of when I was a kid. I did Final Fantasy and all these other, you know, all these, oh, what if this card would be a Magic card? Now, I think the design's having a lot of fun with this, and we're actually starting to see some really well-designed sets that are more inspired by what they can try to do to make it feel Spider-Man-y. So come up with these like web slinger mechanics and mayhem mechanics without being word salad plagued, like we saw again with like Tarkir. Like a lot of these things that have just been done so many times at this point are boring. So there it is. If you're more interested in this more kind of rambly content, this is what I do over the Gone Rogue Games channel. I try to keep it interactive with everyone, mainly talk shop there. And as I stated, I might be doing some One Piece content on this channel, as I'm really super into One Piece at this point. Actually, I joked last night that I'm going into this Spider-Man quite fresh. Back in the day, I used to just look at spoilers all day long back and then prepare for a pre-release and be super excited for Magic pre-releases. And this one, I didn't even like look at spoilers. I couldn't tell you what the most expensive card in Spider-Man is. I couldn't tell you what the most sought after card is for standard or modern or whatnot, because I still didn't even know what's in Spider-Man. And I joked, I'm like, One Piece, I know what's coming out in like the next 3 sets. I know it's a little bit early, like because Japan gets it early and stuff, but that's kind of where my attention is at the moment. Anyway, we've got people coming in, so we better go help Zach get the pre-release going. Thanks for watching.